This is an introduction to the book Mindset for Authors: How to Overcome Perfectionism, Procrastination and Self-Doubt. It's being read by the author, Jane Turner. My challenge to you is to make this the last book you read before your own. Don't worry if you can't see it yet. You can borrow my vision of your future as an author if you need to for the time being. The fact is that even if you're feeling totally unprepared and lacking in confidence, I know that if you set yourself up with a mindset that supports you in your goal to becoming an author, then that is what you will become. If you've read the back cover of this book, you will have seen the quote that I used from Stephen King in his book called On Writing. He says this is a small book on writing because most books on writing are full of bullshit. So from that, you'll know that I'm not about fluffing up the contents of this book with unnecessary content. In fact, the reason I share so much of my story with you in the following pages is that I'm living proof that it's worth putting the effort into establishing a mindset that helps you to get out of your comfort zone. Because if you're looking to evolve into an author, your comfort zone is where this dream is likely to languish for a while and then probably die. My aim here is to either get you out of your comfort zone or to stretch your comfort zone out to the point where it can include all of your goals, including becoming an author. So I'm going to ask you a question that's likely to take you out of your comfort zone right now. And that question is, why haven't you written your book yet? Are you telling yourself a story about being too busy? About not being a good writer? About not having anything important to say? Or something else altogether that is keeping you stuck in the no man's land between longing for success and actually having it? Getting to the bottom of this question will not only free you up to write your book, it will also free you up to live a much fuller and more satisfying life overall. The bottom line is that maintaining a mindset that supports you in relation to your writing goals will mean the difference between getting your book written and forever craving the rewards that come with published author status. I know what it's like to sit in the state of craving. Bringing my first book to life was a 5-year journey with more twists and turns than a game of snakes and ladders. What came out the other end was a book called Thrive in Midlife. This is not a book that should have taken 5 years to write. It was never going to rub shoulders with War and Peace or Anna Karenina. These are the kinds of books that you'd expect to be 5 or so years in the making. Mine, on the other hand, is a 30,000-word how-to book that was written to build my authority and credibility as a coach. These days, I can write a book like this in a matter of weeks rather than years. I can do this by applying what I learnt over the course of my 5-year odyssey. The learning curve I was on was especially steep just before a watershed moment at the end of 2014. That moment brought with it the clarity I needed to have to be able to identify all of the barriers that were holding me back and to work out what I needed to do to overcome them. Working out how to align my mindset with the goal of getting my book finished wasn't the only thing I identified at that time, but it was without a doubt the main piece of the puzzle that I needed to have in place to make sure that the 5 years I'd already spent didn't turn into 6, 7, 8 or more. Thinking back on the single most frustrating period of my life between 2009 and 2015, I can now see that what kept me pushing on was the feeling I got in the pit of my stomach when I saw my competitors who had written books being handed opportunities that I was missing out on. Basically, I was being left behind, and I did not like it. Without knowing it, I was doing a lot more than just writing a book during those 5 long years. I was actually on a journey of self-discovery. In fact, I was on a hero's journey. And the benefits of overcoming the barriers to getting my book written opened up my capacity to do some truly amazing things that I never would have dreamt I could have done before. So what I want to share with you now is a summary of the decision points that got me from where I was in 2009 to where I am now. And I've included this so that you can start to think about how the kinds of roadblocks I experienced might be playing out in your own case. So I started to write a book on aging well in 2009, but I soon got totally overwhelmed and filled with self-doubt. And this led me to buy an online program that was marketed as having all of the templates and tutorials that I would need to get my book finished. But I soon hit a wall because the voice in my head was telling me that I was not qualified enough to promote myself as an expert through a book. So I enrolled in a 2-year transformational coaching course in 2010, and that introduced me to the hero's journey. Now, this new qualification, coupled with my understanding of the hero's journey, motivated me to get back to writing. However, after a short period of productivity, I settled back into another phase of mindset-related interference, and this time in the form of confusion, overwhelm, and massive doses of procrastination. So eventually in 2014, I enrolled in one-on-one mentoring and a high-end writing retreat to finally get my book finished. But I soon hit another wall, and I had to sit in the discomfort of the knowledge that, one, by that time, I had invested over $30,000 in writing courses and 5 years of my life in an attempt to become a published author. And two, the fact that I'd recently been made redundant from the job that had kept my family's finances afloat while I tried to grow my coaching business on the side. And three, and this one was the kicker, the fact that I still didn't have a finished book to use to leverage the power of being a published author to raise my profile and grow my coaching business to the point where it could replace the 6-figure salary that had stopped when I lost my job. Now, this was a watershed moment for me, and it changed my life forever. Because after sitting in the discomfort of the ugly truth of my situation for a while, I had a kind of a breakthrough and worked out what I needed to do and what I needed to have in place to actually get my book finished. This came about because I could see what the barriers to getting my book done had been, and with 52 years of life experience and an understanding of the hero's journey under my belt, I was able to work out what to do to overcome the barriers. So in 2015, I launched my first book, Thrive in Midlife, and I developed the Power Writing Program to save my clients the kind of time and expense that I went through to become a published author. This resulted in my getting offered some amazing publicity opportunities because I also cracked the code to leveraging the status of being a published author to get free publicity. And this led to my developing the Power Publicity Program in 2016. Then in 2017, I went on to write the second book in the Midlife series called Weight Loss in Midlife, as well as making a start on the book that you're reading now. And in 2018, I set up the Power Writers Publishing Group to offer a cost-effective way for my clients to get their books out into the world while maintaining complete ownership and rights to their intellectual property. So the result of all of the above is that by the middle of 2018, less than 3 years after I launched my first book, I have authored and published 3 books, co-authored 3 other books, devised the Power Writing Program, devised the Power Publicity Program, started my own radio show called Your Creative Journey, set up the Power Writers Publishing Group, and established a regular series of Authors in Conversation events at the State Library of New South Wales in Sydney, in Australia, where I live. I absolutely love what I do now, and you couldn't pay me to go back to the security of the 9 to 5 with a regular wage. I get an incredible buzz out of seeing people go from a place where their focus is on what they can't do to a place where they categorically know in their heart and in their mind that they can write a book that will position them as an expert in their field.